4th of December, number of the day. And I'm having a bit of deja vu, Francis Heard, because I feel like I'm the oracle of good news when it comes to the rand versus the dollar. And today's number is
17 rand
again
to the dollar. Yeah, and maybe we chatted in November when it hit 17 rand to the dollar. So this isn't completely new, but let me tell you why it's still exciting. I find the rand very exciting. And it's exciting because before November, when it broke through 17 rand to the dollar, when it strengthened to that level, we hadn't been there for almost 3 years, early 2023, end of 2022. So this is really a strong level, and the predictions are now that the rand could keep on going and maybe hit 16.80 to the dollar or 16.50 to the dollar.
And why would that be good news? Just remind us again, a lower US dollar price versus us is good for us because...
Yes, because less rand to the dollar means it's cheaper to buy a dollar. It means the rand is relatively stronger. You've got something more powerful when you go out and buy anything in dollars on the global market.
Because you're right, we did speak in November, and that was off the back of the G20 and the hosting of the G20, and you spoke about that sentiment, which is maybe why it was heading towards that below 17 rand to the US dollar. But that G20's wrapped and done. And we still seem to be doing quite well.
Yeah, so this is why it's good news. And we have a little prop for the number of the day. And I actually think this should be a smaller plant because, we hear that phrase green shoots.
Oh, is that what that is?
Yeah, and they're too big. Right now, they're little. But we have been talking about green shoots for years. But actually, some see the rand as the country's share price. So the stronger the rand is, it means that the country is seen in a more positive light. We've had a lot of good economic news. We've had a ratings upgrade rather than a downgrade. We're off the grey list. The G20 went well. We've finally stabilized our debt, and the plan is to bring our debt down. All of that's good. Having said that, the rand is mostly reacting to a weaker dollar. So maybe that's a question. Why is the dollar so weak? But right now, the dollar is weak and the rand is on this incredible run because of the dollar.
And I know it's always important when it comes to foreign investment, almost anything in the business world. As the layman here, does this attract foreign investment? Do other countries outside of South Africa look at our strengthening rand, albeit in this case, the weakening dollar?
So exactly. And what it means is that the rand, the country is more attractive. So when the dollar is weakening because the US Fed Reserve is expected to cut interest rates in the United States, and more interest rate cuts are expected. Donald Trump wants more interest rate cuts because rate cuts put money in people's pockets. It makes credit cheaper.
Spending power.
Yeah, it helps the economy. So he wants even faster rate cuts. Despite some pushback from the Fed Reserve, they are now cutting rates. Now, when they cut rates, our rates look relatively stronger and more attractive. And by the way, we've had economists tell us that bonds, South African bonds, are flying off the shelves and they're not even on a Black Friday special. They're just doing really well because suddenly it becomes attractive to invest in South Africa. When you do, you generally get these higher interest rates. So good all right.
So it's the weakening dollar, which is good news for us. But if memory serves, and I don't think it serves me all that well, which is why you're here, we would love to go 1650, 1640, but it wasn't long ago. I'm sure we were somewhere near the 20s or the 20 rand to the US dollar.
Exactly. We were heading to 20 rand earlier in the year. So around April. And I think that is when there was that huge concern about the impact of the so-called Trump tariffs, when he was announcing that South Africa would face the 30%, and we weren't sure of the impact. So there you can see there was concern about the South African economy. Since then, there's been a lot of good news about our economy. That's helping the rand. And the Trump tariffs, by the way, we are seeing that in the GDP data, in the growth data. We are seeing it in certain sectors, but it's been a bit more muted than we thought. So let's stick to all the positive news about South Africa, compounded by the weakening of the dollar, and we get this wonderful 17 rand.
And just very quickly, I know that often we would like to, as news people, I do anyway, tie in the economy and markets with politics. I'm not getting the sense really that the Trump tantrums, as I'm going to call them, has had any effect on the weakening dollar. They do tend to be quite separate.
Yeah, the dollar often is on its own mission. The dollar, sometimes when the US has been in trouble, the dollar has strengthened because it was seen, and I'm saying it was, I'll explain why, but it was seen as this incredible safe asset to invest in. If you invest in the dollar, you're safe. The US can have these incredible debt levels, but the US is the strongest economy in the world, and the dollar is not going to let you down. There's been some change in that, and you can't always predict what the dollar is going to do. Sometimes it's reacting to people needing a safe haven. Sometimes it's reacting to different things. So yeah, I would say Donald Trump not yet controlling the levels of the dollar. He's not all powerful.
Thank heavens. Am I allowed to be selfish and ask the interest rate question for us? Because you spoke about the US interest rates. Again, if we look ahead to whenever the next interest rate announcement is for us, does the rand dollar, does the Reserve Bank look at that kind of strength, or is it not really part of their thinking?
So the Reserve Bank does worry about the rand, and sometimes that's been an argument for keeping rates higher because of what I've been explaining, that you become more attractive, so more money comes in. I don't know if we'll get another rate cut. Remember, our inflation level now is meant to be 3%, and we're already above 3%. Yeah. Often we follow the US, so the US cuts rates, and basically everybody in the world cuts rates. Japan is on their own mission at the moment, but that is the way it works. Still, relatively, we have better interest rates than the United States, which makes us look like a good buying option at the moment. So that is the number of the day. That is a wrap.